Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I've got a very spicy deck in store for you today, a banned infinite airbending combo deck. So we've got a bunch of airbending cards from Avatar, including Aang himself. The Swift Savior is a 3-mana 2/3 with flash and flying, and when Aang enters we get to airbend up to one other target creature or spell, meaning that card is put into exile and its controller can recast it again for 2 mana. So Aang's a very flexible card. We can use it to exile opposing tokens or essentially bounce opposing creatures, making the opponent recast them. Can also use it as a pseudo counter spell for non-creature spells that are on the stack, and we can also use it to save our own creatures from opposing spot removal and then recast them later for 2 mana. And then we can also waterbend Aang for 8 mana total, meaning we can tap a number of our creatures and our artifacts to help pay for it, kind of a mix between Convoke and Improvise, and then we can transform Aang into the Ocean's Fury, which can also help close out the game. So Aang is one of the potential combo pieces we can use, but it's not an essential one. What is essential is Appa, Steadfast Guardian. This 4-mana 3/4 has flash and flying as well, and when Appa enters we airbend any number of other target non-land permanents we control. So Appa cannot airbend opposing spells or permanents, but it can only exile our own stuff. And then whenever we cast a spell from exile, we also get to make a 1/1 ally creature token, and it's actually those tokens that are going to be our primary win condition once we're comboing off. So Appa is one of the combo pieces we'll always need to be able to set up our infinite loop, and then we can either pair it with Aang or with the Airbender Ascension, which is a 2-mana enchantment. When it enters, we can airbend up to 1 target creature, so this can potentially target opposing creatures as well, but for the combo we'll need to airbend Appa, and then Appa can airbend the Ascension as well, since it can target any non-land permanent, not only creatures. And then the final piece of the puzzle to make this all make sense is the Grizzled Genius from Thunder Junction, a 2-mana 2/3 saying spells we cast from our graveyard or from exile, and that's the relevant part, now cost 2 less to cast. So if we've airbended one of our own spells, then now we get to cast them from exile for free. So with Dock in play, Appa and an Airbender Ascension or Aang, we can essentially keep airbending those permanents over and over again, recasting them for free, and in the process we'll get to make ally tokens, while also maybe with Appa we can airbend additional creatures we control to get their enter the battlefield ability again, such as maybe an Outcaster Trailblazer, which generates a mana of any color when it enters, so that can start netting us mana with each iteration of the loop to help cast more spells, and whenever another creature with power 4 or greater enters, it also helps us draw additional cards. So if we have another 4-powered creature in circulation, we can essentially draw our entire deck, and then with the infinite mana from Trailblazer we can cast whatever spells we want. And then one of those other 4-powered creatures might be Beza, the Bounding Spring, which is great at stabilizing us against aggro decks by gaining a life if we're behind, or making additional fish tokens to help us block, and can also make treasures if our opponent has more lands in play than we do. So that's also maybe another way of making infinite mana if we keep airbending it with Appa combo. And then Quantum Riddler is also quite synergistic here, since we can warp it for 2 mana, another cheap way to maybe trigger an Outcaster Trailblazer that's on the battlefield to draw extra cards. But a warped Riddler can also maybe be airbended with the Ascension for 2 mana, so then it's put in exile, and then we can recast the Riddler on a following turn for 2 mana, or maybe for free if we control the Grizzled Genius. And then the Riddler, another large creature that we can also maybe ramp into ahead of schedule with the Outcaster Trailblazer, making additional mana when it enters, since we can also plot the Trailblazer, which also gets a discount with the Genius, so then it's only a single green to plot a Trailblazer, which is quite the bargain. And then another interesting combo piece is the Bramble Familiar, which is just a mana creature tapping for green, but it also has this adventure tied to it, and if we airbend the Bramble Familiar, we can cast it for 2 mana from exile, but we can choose whether we fetch quest or cast a Bramble Familiar for 2 mana. So then now we can just fetch quest for 2 mana instead, mill 7 cards, and put a creature, enchantment, or land from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. So that can also give us access to some of our more expensive spells, and just help us dig for those missing combo pieces, whether it's Appa, Aang, Ascension, or the Genius himself. And then rounding out the deck, 2 copies of Commune with Beavers to help find whatever lands or creatures we need. And then the full set of Stock Up, which is always powerful in a combo deck like this, where we need to assemble multiple combo pieces in a timely fashion. And then the mana base has Breeding Pool as the only shock land in these colors for now. Multiversal Passage can also enter as an untapped land in any of those 3 colors. And then we also have a few Surveil lands which enter tapped, but also have those basic land types which are important to enable all the Verge lands in the deck. So we've got 4 Flood Farm, 4 Hushwood, and 2 Willow Rush Verge, and then 1 of each basic in case we need to search those up. So yeah, that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. Sadly, a 1-lander that I'm not going to be able to keep. Alright, I'll try this. Dock is one of our more important cards, but I still don't think I can keep both. Opponent on red-green. Turn 1 elves. Alright, next turn I can maybe plot this for 1 mana. Although it might still be better to stock up. Badger Mole Cub. Liner Elves taps for 2. And a Pollinator's next. There's more. Another one. Well, our opponent's got 1,000,000 mana going into their next turn. I'm just gonna stock up. Find Trailblazer and a land. So it's gonna be an Earthbender's Ascension for now. Do we have a Curve Topper in hand? It's gonna be tough. And a Barrel. Can deal 5 damage to a creature. Alright. Well, I guess I'll stock up. Plot Trailblazer. Take it from there. Found Appa. Plus Familiar. Could be okay at finding our missing piece, which would be Ang. Although it's possible they'll deal with Grizzled Genius here. Should be able to survive another attack, but yeah, opponent's gonna immediately take out Genius, so yeah, there was a stock up where I could have grabbed a second copy, I guess. I guess I can keep looping this forever. I did actually find another dock. So what's my play? Trailblazer makes a mana, so I have 6 total. Can play dock. Appa. Exile Trailblazer. Yeah, I'm not getting another turn here. So I need to make something happen. I play Familiar and then play Appa. Can exile Trailblazer and Familiar, but I don't have dock to play them for free. So that doesn't quite work. Play another Trailblazer. See what we get. What if I play Appa now? Do I have enough to survive? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can maybe exile 1 Trailblazer. Or I can play a pair of Familiars and see what happens next turn. if we get another turn. Trailblazer down. Alright, I guess I take 7. So this is my chance to make something happen. Play Appa. Can fetch quest for free, but let's play Trailblazer first. So we're looking for Ang, and we found it. Ang target Appa. Can fetch quests. Finds base our Quantum Riddler. And then we can rinse and repeat here. Alright, we're comboing. Making mana, making allies. Gaining life. Can even cast the Ascension here. And that also combos with Appa for what it's worth. Probably could have played Trailblazer first to draw an extra card. But yeah, we're fully comboing off. So how does this end? With me making lots of allies. I guess I can also start leveling up the Ascension. Just loop Ang with Appa. So now we have more life than our opponents. We can maybe bounce some of the opponent stuff too here. Let's just chain these two together for a while. Get my Ascension up. And then we should have enough tokens to just win the game next turn. Alright, that's probably good enough. Can also go off at instant speed in the opponent's turn if I'd like. We can waterbend Ang, so yeah, we can do a lot of fun things. Yeah, Water Bandit Aang with all these tokens is going to be plenty. I guess they do still have the barrels they can sacrifice. Yeah, it was close there for a second. But the familiar plus airbend combo was able to assemble all the pieces for us. Opponent passes, activate Aang. Can probably activate again in response if they try and take it out. Take my turn and smash. Sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have a promising hand. Dock plus Appa means we just need one more airbend card. And double Trailblazer's not bad either. So we'll maybe name green to enable most of my verges. A Riddler, a warped out of blue-white. Alright, I think we play Dock. Chance it gets removed, and then I'll regret not waiting a turn to plot some Trailblazers for 1 mana. But let's try it. Alright, get to untap. And yeah, this is the perfect spot to just plot some Trailblazers. Especially if they're keeping up counter spells. No need to attack and put Dock in harm's way. Just pass a turn. Opponent had Aang. So they can now put that in exile. If they also have the Aven, they can actually make these cost 2 mana to cast. So that would actually be a pretty good play. And it does pair well with Aang. Alright, so where to begin? I guess I can cast a Trailblazer and see what happens, and hopefully they don't have the Aven in response. Alright, that resolves. That's promising. So then I can maybe hardcast a Riddler. Warping it is also pretty good value, since we'll get to draw off both Trailblazers, to be fair. Can pay for a more conditional counterspell. Alright, and we found the Ascension. So with Ascension and Appa, we can go infinite. If Dock resolves, so I think I'll just pass with Appa available. Given that they're keeping up some mana here. They didn't do anything. So they must have a counter in hand. Or a sweeper. In which case Appa could rescue the Trailblazer since we have a backup. And then cast them for free again once we deploy Dock. Alright, opponent passes. I guess I'll try casting Appa and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I could exile the Trailblazers, or I can just keep them around. I think we keep them around, since the pressure's nice. Alright, opponent's gonna get lost Appa. So I'll start by attacking, see what happens. Get in for 8, we're also just winning the race. And then I can maybe go for another Appa end of turn, which I don't mind. And there's Momo. Okay. So I can cast Riddler for 4 mana. But then they would be pretty much tapped out, and then we can go infinite next turn. Alright, that's fine. So 1 mana left. At most they can have a bounce spell. No attack from Aang. Afraid of another Appa. And now I think I will exile these. Play Dock for 2 mana. Now I get to play these for free. Find Aang. Yeah, so we've got everything covered here. Ascension. Exile Appa. Replay Appa. And we're comboing. So what's our end goal here is maybe a good question. Just make a few more tokens and then call it a day. With Aang we could also waterbend to pump the team, so we have that option available. Yeah, I guess I'll make some more blue mana, play the Riddler. And then we want to end up with Appa in exile, so it can also rescue our team from a board wipe. Yeah, it seems fine. Cast Familiar. And pass a turn. Discard a couple of lands. Could have kept drawing until we found Beza, but it's not like it's gaining us any life. Avatar's Wrath, okay. Yeah, that is pretty effective, the fact that we cannot cast spells from anywhere other than our hands. I guess I'll just play Aang. Opponent's got their own that they got to cast at a discount. I guess I get to still play it here thanks to Doc. So actually, now I can just send this packing. I totally forgot we can just play things for free that our opponent airbends, so Aang is not an answer. So then I could have used Appa on Aang perhaps to counter twice. Would that have worked? So I guess I play Aang, my opponent pays for it. Then I just flash in Appa, pick up Aang, replay Aang, airbend again, and then it's not going to resolve. So yeah, we should have had most angles covered here. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our opening hand's a little awkward with the 2 basics. Do have Quantum Riddler for a redraw, hope to find green mana. Don't think we'll be able to set up Riddler with Ascension to warp and draw. I'll try it. If I do find green mana, this hand's fine. Alright, perfect. So, start with Familiar, and then next turn I could already Ascension Familiar cast a free fetch quest. Or a 2-mana fetch quest, I should say. Opponent black-green. They're just gonna shoot it down. Could have also gone for Warp Riddler and then airbend it. Now I guess we'll just plot a Trailblazer. And Badger Mole Cub. Probably the most played card in the event, if I had to guess. ×2, wow. Well, those 2 lands now tap for 3 mana each. So next turn they could have access to 8 mana. Yeah, that's impressive. What can I come up with? Trailblazer into Quantum Riddler seems fine. Draw some cards. So we're looking for Dock, since we have both Ascension and Appa to go infinite. Alright, Fire Drill. Takes out our Trailblazer. Well, that could have been worse, I guess. So this turn... What are my options? I could also Ascension the Riddler just to replay it and draw an extra card. Doesn't seem all that exciting. I think I'm just playing a pair of Familiars, and then next turn we can airbend one of them, hopefully, to fetch quest. And then we'll have a decent amount of mana to work with as well. And a Riddler can play defense. Alright, the drill gets ready to attack. This is not a drill, although this is a drill. Another Sentinel on top. So it looks like kind of a mid-rangey deck. Preacher's fine. And Red Knights, their last card, draws into another Sentinel, replayed Red Knight, and Explore. Well, at least our opponent's on empty here. And we drew Dock, so I think we go infinite. Let me just make sure I don't mess this up. So Dock into Ascension into Appa. Or Appa into Ascension, doesn't matter. Could have attacked with a Riddler first too, but that's fine. So now we get to cast these for free, including Fetch Quest. Find, how about a Trailblazer here? Maybe I can play the Riddler to start with. Fetch Quest again. Find Aang. And this is already infinite, but we also have the Ascensions that we can put to use. GG's. And we've demonstrated a loop. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We have green, white, so I still need to find maybe blue mana with Commune, but then we have Dock, double Trailblazer, so it has potential. Happy to be playing Commune over the one that only finds creatures. Alright, that's our blue mana we needed. So now I can maybe look for one of my airbending cards. Against red-green, Besa could certainly help. Or I can grab another green source. Breeding Pool would enable all the verges. It's maybe still more important. Alright, we've got double Dock, so if one gets removed it's not the end of the world. Opponent will accumulate wisdom, so on a lesson deck. Which tend to have a decent amount of creature removal. Yep. Alright, so I could wait another turn on Dock and then I can double plot Trailblazer right away. So let's just stock up for now. Finding a Riddler and Ascension. Opponent taps out for Toff, can get back a removal spell. Gets back the Wisdom to maybe draw 3. And discarding a land. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, I'm liking Dock double plot. It's pretty mana efficient. They'll probably remove it, but we got our value. So there's 2 copies left in the deck. So now a total of 2 lessons in the graveyard. Alright, so there's a chance they have 2 1-mana lessons that can both take out Trailblazer before I get to draw for Riddler. Could still be worth it. We also have the Familiar plus Ascension line available, but that only works if our opponent doesn't have instant speed removal in response. So let's just start by playing some Trailblazers and see what happens. If these soak up removal, that's okay. They're not essential combo pieces. Make a mana. And yeah, just another technique. That's alright. So Trailblazer enters. Can warp Riddler too and still draw, but I think I'm okay casting it just to have a larger blocker. And then depending on what we draw, I can maybe still play a Familiar out. Alright. Seems worth it. So then next turn I can maybe try Ascension on Familiar to fetch quest for 2 mana. Opponent now does get to draw 3. Okay, so they're just kinda spinning their wheels a bit, going through the deck, growing the ridge line. But now Coast is clear, and we've got Appa plus Ascension, so all I'm missing is Dock, one of the remaining 2 copies. So I'm gonna start with Ascension. Fetch quest, see what we hit. And I found Ang, no Dock. Could also put a Riddler in play, to be fair, which seems pretty strong. Draw stock up, ×2. Can't go wrong with that. And there's Dock, and let's go with Ang. Or I could grab an untapped land. Having the redundant combo piece might be important. No need to attack. Well, if they can tap out again, that would be lovely. Bounce Riddler for 1 mana, that's kinda scary. Talents. I can also airbend the land to reset it next turn, which may be necessary. Take 9. Alright, so what are my options here? If I play Dock, I have 4 mana left. I could play Appa, Exile, Trailblazer, Riddler, Ascension, and then I get to play those for free thanks to Dock, so I get to replay those over and over. Yeah, we should be infinite. And for 1 red mana, I don't think they can significantly mess us up. Play Trailblazer. That's how we generate additional mana as well. Riddler helps us draw. Haven't played land for turn yet. Ascension, Airbend Appa. Rinse and repeat. Okay, maybe gain additional life with the mana we're generating with Beza. Make some more mana. Draw some more cards. Still plenty of cards left in library. And there's Beza, so could cast that as well. Gain some life back, just to be safe. And then the next step might be to play Ang, and then set up the Water Bend ability. Beza, gain more life, draw another card. Alright, I think I'm done flickering everything but Trailblazer and Ascension. We've got enough cards in hand. So let's play Ang. And reset their lands. And pass a turn. And we have Appa, we can play at instant speed, so we can keep going off. Keep 7 cards. I don't think this matters too much. Backup dock just in case. But yeah, we can keep going off at instant speed if there's any shenanigans afoot. And I can now waterbend as well to pretty easily attack for lethal next turn. So yeah, opponent's been pretty patient with us. Iroh, yeah, that can let them replay their lessons for 1 mana. There's the other Iroh as well. If you have both in play, you can play your lessons for free. But yeah, opponent seems pretty dead regardless. We'll waterbend. And our opponent scoops it up. Sweet. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. We have a promising hand. We actually have the full combo in hand if our opponent doesn't mess anything up. Stock up is, I guess, good insurance in case one of the pieces gets removed. A red-green. So next turn, play Ascension, can even airbend an opposing creature. An Artist's Talent. That I cannot airbend. But yeah, I think I still play it and then hope to combo next turn versus play Stock Up, which is also an option, because Artist's Talent does point towards maybe a more controlling strategy, so then it's unlikely that I'll get to fully combo off next turn, but I'll still try it. And then don't need another land. Alright, so if they tap out for some card draw here, or a creature, we would be happy. Now Ascension, I can only play in my turn, so if they pass with mana up, it's not like I'll be able to pass and combo in their turn like we can with Ang. But yeah, opponent just going for Shared Roots to ramp, discarding a lesson. So coast seems clear. So let's combo. Target Ascension. Ascension, target Appa. Make an ally. So we're making infinite allies. Possible our opponent's got a board wipe to deal with all of them. But yeah, we'll find out. This would be a little easier in paper, where we can just say, sure, make 100 tokens. So yeah, going infinite on turn 4. There's a few ways to do it, but this is one of the more straightforward ones. I guess it makes sense to just leave Appa in exile, and then if there is a board wipe, we can just respond with it and pick up some of our permanents. Alright, I think this is maybe enough. Put our opponent to 16. Alright, let's do maybe a couple more just in case. Alright, I'll pass with 16 tokens and a dock. Can play Appa at instant speed. Another talent is fine. Discard a land. So with 2 mana left, we should be safe. Accumulated Wisdom can first discard a lesson to then immediately draw 3. So yeah, they got to do their thing as well. Just so happens that our thing just wins the game. Alright, take my turn and attack. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Of I've got Dock, Ang, just missing one more airbend combo piece. Turn to Sentinel, so up against that mid-range deck again. Another Ang. So they pretty likely have an answer here. Take 3. And a Beatles next. Draining for 3. Alright, now I get to keep up Ang to maybe come to the rescue if needed. Can maybe wait for them to crew the vehicle and then I can still airbend it. Their opponent crews. They still have the mana to redeploy it here if I airbend, but I think it's still worth it. Could also jump and then airbend Dock, but then I'll have to pay 2 mana to redeploy it. So let's just do this. Take 3. And take another 3. Well, we drew Appa, so we're going infinite here. Good attack first. Well, that's the fastest we can combo, pretty much. So we'll get to make infinite ally tokens. Which isn't necessarily game over, but it certainly helps. Have to go off while they're tapped out in case they can interfere. Alright, and that'll do it. Awesome. So we got to see this banned airbending combo deck in action, and I'm quite pleased with where the deck ended up. The earlier builds that I tried felt a bit clunky and rough, but once I've added Bramble Familiar as a backdoor combo piece enabler, as well as adding the Ascension alongside Ang and Appa, just made the deck much more consistent, and then Stock Up was kind of the final cherry on top. Just a very powerful card individually, and especially in a combo deck like this, it helps assemble all those missing pieces. Beza can help against aggro, so that was also a pretty nice one. And then Quantum Riddler, also just a fine card if you cast it alongside your Trailblazers. Can also maybe benefit from Dock, where you can cast it from exile for 3 mana. So everything started to kind of piece together, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with where the deck ended up. So yeah, that'll do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.